Hi, I'm Kellen Forbach. Welcome to Advocates for Good, where you'll hear fascinating stories about charity told from the unique perspective of legal professionals who volunteer their time for others. Our guest today is attorney Sheri Hecht Leonard. Sheri is an accomplished public company executive, corporate counsel, and sought-after public speaker. She's given notable addresses before the Association of Corporate Counsel, the Corporate Council for Women of Color, the National Association of Women Lawyers, General Counsel Institute, and ARMA. Currently, she serves as Deputy General Counsel at Suburban Propane. As such, she manages a real estate department with 1,000 locations in 41 states, is Chief Legal Counsel for subsidiary company Agway Energy Services, manages litigation including employment and commercial class actions, drafts contracts, agreements, prepares stock exchange and SEC filings, counsels all levels of management on diverse issues ranging from cybersecurity, privacy compliance, corporate law, mergers and acquisitions, employment law, marketing, and risk. Sheri volunteers as a trustee and board member for Partners for Women and Justice. Partners for Women and Justice empowers low-income, abused women to build safe and secure futures for themselves and their children by providing equal access to justice. Partners offers quality legal assistance in domestic violence and family law matters and guidance to promote financial competence and independence. Sheri, welcome to the show. It's great to have you on. Partners sounds like a really great organization. Can you tell me what inspired you, what attracted you to Partners for Women and Justice?
Sure, that's an easy one. So I am all about any organization that specifically empowers women, but individuals overall. And Partners really comes in at a point in people's lives where they're ready to make a change, where they say, I've had enough of this situation and I want to have a different life. And so Partners provides the legal assistance to help them have a different life. And a lot of the Partners clients have children. The bulk of them have children. And so I'm sure you've heard of the cycle of violence, And by taking the children out of that situation, you are breaking that cycle of violence and you're changing future generations because somebody stepped in, a lawyer helped step in at that pivotal moment to empower somebody to truly change their lives. And to me, I'm getting goosebumps just saying that. So it tells you how I really feel about the cause, because you get to see the change you make in people's lives. And we've heard clients over the years tell us their story, so we can fully appreciate what kind of a difference we have made on an individual basis and overall. So that's why I'm still there, because I love what Vote Partners does.
That's so great. One of the things that you were mentioned before the show was what it feels like for somebody to sit in a courtroom across the table from an abuser. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So the legal process is a scary place for a non-lawyer, and for anybody who's a non-lawyer, but to now have to go into a courtroom and literally sit 3 feet away from your abuser is really frightening and traumatic. And to have a lawyer by your side when you're there, that's just so empowering for the actual victims of domestic violence to be able to have a lawyer by their side. And the statistics are out there that they have a much greater chance of success in the courtroom if they have a lawyer by their side. And I know 88% of our clients have had successful outcomes in the courtroom because there's a lawyer by their side. And roughly 50% of our clients, English is not their first language. So, multiply that situation of being in a court proceeding, sitting across the street, across the table from your abuser, and you don't speak the language that the judge is speaking. So all of that combined is it's a life changer for the victims.
Oh, absolutely. Now, you were telling me about a client who was sheltering in place.
So
I don't know if you
yeah,
can share a little bit about that, just that individual, that particular story.
sure. We had a client who was sheltering in place with her abuser and an infant child. And
So tell me, what does it mean, sheltering in place?
so with COVID, when last March came, people were told stay home. Businesses closed, and you were told to stay home. And so I'm sure you've read some of the stories in the news, and if not, I don't know how you missed them, about how domestic violence significantly increased with people being at home during COVID when they couldn't go out and they were told to stay home. Tensions rose and domestic violence increased. So the particular one that you're talking about, it was a client who was at home with a young child, and tensions don't always go so well when you've got an abuser and you're there all the time with each other. And in that case, the abuser threatened to kidnap the child. And obviously not a good situation. And the client got a temporary restraining order, and Partners is assisting this client with getting a final restraining order. So that's just an example of how COVID affected everything.
How does that work when the abuser's in the house?
Well, that's why you get the restraining order, right?
Okay, so that gets them out.
Exactly. So to get the victims away from their abusers.
Now, one of the things you had been talking about was, a client who was subjected to verbal abuse for a long time. Can you share that story with me?
Sure. So in that one, the client had gotten a temporary restraining order. And in that case, we had a staff attorney. So we have both staff attorneys and pro bono attorneys. And I can talk more about that later if you like. But we had a partner staff attorney who represented the client in a Zoom final restraining order hearing, because I'm sure, as you realize, when everything shut down, the courts shut down. And so they went to a Zoom hearing. But this particular client, like a lot of our clients, don't have access to a computer. So she had to imagine having a hearing by a cell phone. So when you're told to look at evidence, you're looking at it on the same cell phone where you're participating by Zoom, which makes it very challenging when you're trying to view evidence on the same phone where you're trying to have a Zoom call with a judge. And after overcoming those limitations with the Zoom platform, when you don't have a computer, a final restraining order was granted for this victim.
That is a great story, and it's just I'm sure the tension of waiting for that restraining order and whether or not you get it that's pressure. Tell me a little bit about you're mentioning staff attorneys and pro bono attorneys. Tell me a little bit more about the structure of Partners and how it works.
So Partners has staff attorneys who are employed by Partners who represent the victims of domestic violence. And primarily we serve Essex, Union, Middlesex, Hudson, and Passaic counties in New Jersey. But in addition to the staff attorneys, we receive pro bono services from many law firms in New Jersey. And it's estimated that we receive over $1 million a year in free legal services from other attorneys in the state of New Jersey who volunteer to take a case for a victim of domestic violence, or there's something called a SASPA order. So whether it's a DV, domestic violence, or a SASPA order, or some of the other things that they do is a child spousal support or visitation and custody. These are all the type of proceedings that partners, staff attorneys, and their pro bono attorneys handle. And so, we really do partner with all of the attorneys in the state of New Jersey who see the good that Partners does and really comes out to support the cause. And as I said, over $1 million a year in free legal services.
Now, you are not a staff attorney, you're a volunteer, and you are general counsel for Suburban Propane. And I was reading through your bio, and it's fascinating the number of different types of law that you have to engage in. Everything from mergers and acquisitions to real estate to managing outside counsel. How do you learn to do all that?
So I spent over 20 years as a litigator. So that's kind of my background. And as a litigator, really what you're litigating is different things. So before coming to Suburban, I pretty much handle litigation, corporate, commercial, insurance, and I did some employment as well. So when I came here, I initially started with employment law, and I still handle, I'm the only employment lawyer here, and I still handle that. And the real estate department was assigned to me, and I had not done commercial real estate initially, but you know what? You go to law school, you learn how to do this, right? There's different specialty areas of the law, and you learn. That's, to me, one of the greatest things about being a lawyer is that you're always learning. And so I learned to do that. I had never done safety stuff before, but when you work for a propane company, you learn really quick about OSHA and safety. And so I started doing that, and they saw that I proved myself with those things. And my GC at the time said, "Are you interested in doing M&A?" And I said, "I never have been before. I've never done it, but you know what? I'm at the point in my career. I love learning new things." So we actually do not use outside counsel on M&A unless it involves publicly traded units. So I write M&A agreements, asset purchase agreements, and it's fun. It's interesting. I like wearing a lot of different hats, and that's part of the role of a deputy general counsel is you don't just do one thing.
If you were speaking to a young attorney who was interested in becoming corporate counsel, maybe they got their first job out of law school, and it was with small local firm, general, Main Street law practice, and they wanted to go into corporate law. Would you have any advice for them?
Yeah, I probably would. So I like being an in-house lawyer. It is not for everyone. I like having one client and only one client. And as a result of that, I really get to partner with them. I get to understand what their needs are. I get to do stuff on the front end instead of the back end. So as a litigator, we call it putting on your boots and taking out your fire hose and putting out fires, right? That's what litigators do as a defense attorney, is you quash problems. But here I get to be on the front end of that. So for example, I saw an uptick in a certain type of claim that was coming in and realized that there was a problem. And I went to the HR department and I said, we need to train on this and do something about it. And between the legal department and the HR department, we went out and trained every single manager in this company. And I can happily say we haven't had a single one of the claims that we were training on come in since then. Not a lawyer letter, not a lawsuit, not an EEOC complaint, because we were able to see the trend, train on it, and stop it from happening. So that's the beauty of being in-house, because you don't get to do that when you're in a firm. You only get to fix the problem after it's happened.
Was there a moment in your life when you said, gee, I want to be an attorney?
Oh,
And how did that happen?
so you're going to laugh at me, but I was cleaning out my basement recently, and I'm a bit of a pack rat. I found a career report that I did in 1984 on law. I wanted to be a lawyer in my English class, and I found my original report. This is all I've ever wanted to do.
That's great. That's really great. Getting back to and remind me, I want to say, I don't want to get it wrong. Partners for Women and Justice. What are some of the things that are the challenges that Partners is facing right now?
Well, COVID obviously is a game changer for everything. It's totally changed the ability for lawyers to practice law. Trials are virtual. Juries are not coming into courthouses. They don't want even judge trial. They don't want people in courthouses. So as I said before, some clients only have phones and no laptops. So that makes it really difficult to have a hearing when people just don't have the technology for the way we're trying things now in a post-COVID world. As I also said before, the severity and the frequency of domestic violence has skyrocketed with COVID. In the last 9 months of 2020. The reports of domestic violence to the police rose by double digits in some of the cities such as Newark and Elizabeth. So at first, it looked like it had slowed down, but what really happened was that you couldn't get temporary restraining orders. And then once they got past that hurdle of how do you do that in a lockdown, the numbers just, went up exponentially. So that's, COVID really changed things for a lot of people. And also how we raise money has been impacted because our spring benefit is our largest event. That's our largest fundraising event. We typically have over 500 people attend. It's one of the largest events in the state every year. And last year it went virtual, and this year it will also be a virtual benefit. And, part of the relationships that you build with your donors, it's really hard to do that by Zoom when you can't, sit in a room with your donors to make that happen. So we've had some key supporters who are still supporting us, but who have also had to pull back on funding for reasons related to COVID. So really, this past year has been just a game changer from the way we have to try cases to the amount of DV cases that have just skyrocketed to, how we fundraise and the ability of some of our previous funders to provide funding in a post-COVID world.
That brings us to a really great question, which is, what can people who are in our audience, people who are listening right now, what can they do to help?
Well, the first one is easy: donate money. So Partners for Women in Justice's website is PFWJ, just like it sounds, Partners for Women in Justice. So pfwj.org. You can donate right on the website. And I encourage everybody to go to the website, even if you don't want to donate. So just—
And what was the website again?
pfwj.org.
.org, not .com, .org.
.org. And so donate money. You can do it right on our website. That is always a great way to support the free legal services for victims of domestic violence. You can follow us on social media. We're Facebook, LinkedIn. Follow us. The more people who know about us, the more services that we can get out there, because, part of it is you have to be a low income victim of domestic violence, but sometimes they may not have necessarily the means to know about us, with family court justice centers currently shut down. So it's a way of getting, the word out about who we are and what we do. And, learn about us. Go to our website and just become a champion of Partners and get the word out. Because in your life, I will willing to bet someone who is or was a victim of domestic violence. This doesn't just affect low-income people. This affects everyone. So, learn about us and become a champion for us.
Now, what about attorneys that may be in the north central New Jersey area within your service area? Can they volunteer?
Oh, absolutely. So, and we do free training. We don't, that's one of the reasons why actually a lot of law firms like to do pro bono with us, because we don't just send you in blind. When most lawyers who get the court, the court appointed ones, you usually get a criminal matter and you have no idea what you're doing if you're not a criminal lawyer, like when I got my last assignment. But Partners doesn't just say, okay, great, you're going to volunteer, go. So they provide free training for the folks who want to volunteer for the victims. And there's different types. It doesn't mean that you're going to get a case that you're going to find so heart-wrenching you're not going to sleep at night. You can sign up for different types of cases for what suits you. And the one good thing about COVID is now that the hearings are virtual, it's less of a time commitment than spending half a day in court. So that may attract more lawyers who are willing to take on a pro bono assignment. So absolutely, again, Partners website, or they can call Partners. I can give you their phone number if you want it.
Please.
Okay, it's 973-233-0111. So call that.
Repeat that.
973-233-0111.
And that's a good number for an attorney to call if they're interested in volunteering.
Anybody, just call and say, look, I'm interested in volunteering. And we have an employee of Partners. This is what they do. They are assigned for pro bono services, and we absolutely, and if you're in a firm and there's more than one of you, we can do training for the entire firm for whoever is interested. So you learn how to handle one of these cases. We also have it where we have a staff attorney who can sometimes mentor a pro bono attorney their first time out. And that way you know what you're doing, and the next time you take one, you don't need a staff attorney and you can handle it on your own. So there's different ways that you can volunteer. So absolutely, if you're licensed in the state of New Jersey, please volunteer.
Now, I want to thank Suburban Propane for letting you come on, because it's a different relationship when you're corporate counsel. That's something that you have to clear with your employer. And so it was very kind of them to let you come on. Can you tell us some other great things that Suburban Propane has done for charitable causes?
Absolutely. So community service is one of our corporate pillars, and we are a national partner with the American Red Cross. We do a lot of work with the Red Cross. And from blood drives to helping out when, for example, Hurricane Harvey down in Texas, we partnered with the Red Cross. This past year, I'm sure you know about the wildfires that took place in Oregon that were just devastating. It was one of the largest fires in the state. I think over 170,000 acres burned. And there were over 1,000 firefighters and support people who were fighting that wildfire. And Suburban quickly responded to a request to provide propane to fuel the mobile kitchens and the showers for the crews and the emergency responders in the Eugene, Oregon area. And Suburban said, yes, absolutely, we can help you out. And they did that. Also, COVID happened this past year. And I'm sure you remember there were a lot of testing tents that were set up outdoors at local hospitals across the country. And we provided the propane for COVID testing tents across the country at some local hospitals. And being from the metro area, I'm sure you remember when the USS Comfort came into the port in New York City. It was, absolutely. I still have a picture of that, because it's something you may never see again in your lifetime, and hopefully we won't ever see again in our lifetime. But we got Suburban Propane got a request from FEMA to provide propane for certain locations in the New York City area to support the COVID-19 efforts. And one of those was the USS Comfort that was docked in the New York Harbor, the Jacob Javits Convention Center, the New York City Emergency Operations Center in Brooklyn. We delivered propane for heat and hot water for RVs and staff working around the clock. And, in normal circumstances in New York City, you can't have bulk propane deliveries into the city, but due to the emergency circumstances of the coronavirus outbreak, FEMA was able to get special permission for us to come in and do that and provide the support in a timely manner and in a way that they needed. So, some of the great things that Suburban has done in the last year, from wildfires to COVID testing centers to, COVID relief support.
If anybody wants to, an audience wants to support Suburban Propane, is there a website or a number that they can, find out if Suburban is available in their area?
Absolutely. First of all, you could go to our website, suburbanpropane.com. We are in 41 states, so there's a pretty good chance that you can find Suburban Propane in your area. 1-800-PROPANE is another way. And we're not just residential, we're commercial. We support the agricultural business. So we provide auto gas as well. We do certain fleets. So Suburban Propane is, I'm sure you know, the third largest propane retailer in the United States. So there's a pretty good chance Suburban Propane is located in your area. So absolutely.
Sheri, I really want to thank you for coming on and thank you for the great work that you do for Partners for Women in Justice. So thank you very much. I appreciate your coming on.
Well, thank you for having me.
If you're an attorney and you'd like to promote your charity on Advocates for Good, call us at 267-866-0648. That's 267-866-0648. Advocates for Good is made possible by Professional Risk Group. Professional Risk Group handles professional liability and associated insurance for law firms. This is Kellen Vorbach signing off for Advocates for Good.